never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I'm just trying to make sense of what's happened to me. I was with Emily for about 5 years, and honestly, I thought I knew her inside out. She's always been a bit of a bitch, sharp-tongued, quick to lie, and she's got this nasty habit of twisting everything to make herself look innocent. Still, I loved her. We were planning to get married. I mean, I was all in, had the ring, the venue booked, the whole 9 yards. Everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. We met in college, hit it off pretty quickly, and I was smitten. Emily was beautiful, confident, and had this fiery personality that I found addictive. But over the last few months, I started noticing little things that didn't sit right. She was more secretive with her phone, always kept her laptop closed when I was around, and sometimes she'd get weirdly defensive when I'd ask her where she was or who she was talking to. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was just stressed, or maybe I was reading too much into it. But deep down, I felt something was off. Then came the night of our engagement party. It was supposed to be a celebration, our friends, family, drinks, laughs. I was up there giving a toast, talking about our future, how excited I was to start this new chapter with her. Emily was sitting front and center, smiling, acting like she loved the attention. Everyone was having a good time. But I noticed her sneaking off a few times with her phone, and she seemed tense when I tried to talk to her about it. I didn't think much of it at the moment. I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed. That night after the party, we went home. I was exhausted but happy. I came into the bedroom to get ready for bed, and I saw her phone lying on the nightstand. Something made me pick it up. I don't know why, maybe it was a gut feeling that I'd been ignoring for too long. I started scrolling through her messages. At first, it was just some flirtatious texts, nothing crazy. But then I saw a message from her best friend, Sarah, saying, "Tonight was perfect. I can't wait for the next time we see each other, you know what I mean." My stomach dropped. I kept scrolling and found more. Secretly arranged meetups, mysterious calls, a text saying, "Don't worry, I'll make sure he never finds out." I felt sick. I couldn't believe it. The woman I was about to marry had been sneaking around with my best friend, Mark. My best friend. The guy I trusted with everything. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I put her phone down and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process what I'd just seen. How long has this been going on? How could she lie so well? I thought about confronting her right then, but I was too overwhelmed. I just sat there staring at the wall, feeling betrayed, humiliated, and furious. Next morning, I decided I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I had to know the truth. I had to ask her face to face, even if I knew I wouldn't like what I'd hear. I didn't sleep that night. And when she woke up, I asked her to sit down. Her reaction was classic Emily, defensive, dismissive, trying to gaslight me. She called me paranoid, said I was making things up, that I was overreacting. She told me I was imagining things, that she'd never do something so stupid, but I knew better. I had the proof right there in her phone. I just didn't know how I was going to get through this, how I was going to confront Mark, or what I was going to do next. All I knew was that my world was falling apart and there was no turning back from here. After she finished her pathetic little denial, I felt my blood boiling. I've never been the violent type, but at that moment I wanted to shake her, scream at her, make her see how deeply she had betrayed me. Instead, I just stared at her, cold and quiet, trying to hold it all in. I knew I had to be smart. I needed to see how deep this went, how many lies I'd been living in. I told her to leave the house for a bit, that I needed time to think. She threw a fit, of course, called me crazy, said I was accusing her of something she never did, that I was overreacting. That's her usual game, lying, twisting, making everything seem like my fault. While she was out, I started digging. I didn't sleep that night either. I went through her phone more thoroughly, looking for any evidence I might have missed. I found a bunch of texts, more secret messages, pictures, even a few explicit ones. She was cheating on me with Mark, no doubt about it. I found a video she and Mark in some hotel room laughing and kissing. I don't know how I missed the signs before, but I did. I felt sick reading all of this. My best friend, my fiancée, the woman I trusted more than anyone, was doing this behind my back. It was like some sick movie, and I was the helpless victim. The worst part was the realization that she'd lied to my face every single time I confronted her about anything. She told me she was working late, going out with her friends, or just running errands. Meanwhile, she and Mark had been sneaking around, having sex, sharing moments that I was supposed to be the only one to share with her. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I didn't see that she'd been planning this. All along, the woman I thought I knew was nothing but a manipulative bitch, and my best friend turned out to be a snake. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and just crushed. The next day, I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I was prepared. I called her and told her I wanted to talk face to face. When she came home, I didn't hold back. I laid everything out, showed her the videos, the texts, everything I'd found. Her reaction was instant. She snapped, called me every name under the sun, said I was crazy, insecure, jealous, and that I was ruining her life. She said she loved me, that it was just a fling, that Mark was just a stupid mistake. But I wasn't buying it. I told her she was a lying, manipulative bitch who had played me for a fool, and I was done. She stared at me, eyes cold and full of venom, and then she started crying, fake tears, the kind she always used to get her way. She said I was overreacting, that I was being paranoid and possessive, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. I looked at her and realized I'd been blind for so long. I'd been so in love that I ignored all the red flags, all the small lies that should have been warning signs. I felt like a damn fool, but I also felt something else, anger, real searing anger. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. The emotional crash hit me hard after she left that day. I felt empty, used, betrayed. But beneath all that, I also felt a strange clarity. I knew I had to decide what to do next. Do I fight for this marriage? Do I forgive her and pretend like nothing happened? Or do I cut my losses and walk away? The thought of losing her, losing everything we planned, tore me apart. But I also knew I couldn't stay with someone who lied, cheated, and tried to manipulate me into silence. I needed a plan, a way to get through this mess and come out of it with some dignity. Because right now, I was just broken, trying to piece myself back together from the wreckage of my own trust. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of numbness. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat much either. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, that smug look she had when she lied straight to my face. Or I saw Mark's stupid grin in that hotel video, like he thought he was some kind of king. It was hard to believe how quickly everything had fallen apart. Just a few weeks ago, I was planning our wedding, excited about our future. Now I was questioning everything, her loyalty, my own judgment, whether I'd been blind to the truth all along. I started talking to some friends for advice, people who knew Emily, people who knew me. Everyone was angry for me, furious that she'd betrayed me, especially with Mark, my best friend. That one cut deep. I thought Mark was my brother in friendship, someone I could rely on, confide in. Turns out he was just a traitor. I felt so stupid for trusting him, for thinking they could get away with this. But what hurt even more was the way Emily had lied so convincingly. She told me she loved me, that I was her everything. And now I was left thinking how easily she discarded that for some meaningless sex and a little thrill. One night I decided I couldn't keep pretending I was okay. I needed closure. I set up a confrontation, told Emily I wanted to talk, to get this out in the open. When she came over, she was defensive as ever. Her bitchy attitude was still there, trying to dismiss everything, acting like she'd done nothing wrong. She threw her usual accusations: "You're overthinking. You're insecure. I never meant for it to go this far." But I knew better. I had all the proof. I looked her in the eyes and told her she was a lying, manipulative bitch who'd played me like a fool. I pointed out the videos, the texts, the failed attempts she'd made at covering her tracks. She didn't break down crying this time. Instead, she got nasty, calling me paranoid, a jealous idiot, insisting that I was jealous of Mark or that I was imagining things. She tried to turn it around, make me feel guilty. I could see right through her act. My stomach clenched with rage. I told her she was a cheater, a liar, and that I was done. Done with her lies, her excuses, her betrayal. I told her I'd never trust her again, that I didn't want her in my life anymore. She looked at me, eyes full of contempt, and then she started with the tears again, phony tears designed to manipulate. I saw right through it. She begged, tried to guilt-trip me, said I was ruining everything, that I was making her out to be the bad guy. But I wasn't falling for it. I knew this was her last-ditch effort to save herself. Honestly, I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I had always loved her, but this was beyond anything I could forgive. Her lies, her cheating, her betrayal of us, it was everything I'd ever feared wrapped into one. That night I made the decision. I couldn't stay with someone who'd do this to me, who'd lie and cheat and manipulate. I told her to leave, that I never wanted to see her again. She screamed, called me a complete psycho, accused me of ruining her life. But I didn't care. My heart was broken, but I knew I had to be strong. I had to walk away from this nightmare. I packed her things myself and watched her walk out the door, her high heels clicking against the hardwood as she disappeared from my life for good. The house felt emptier than ever after that. I kept replaying everything in my head, her lies, her sneers, Mark's stupid grin. I realized I'd been trying to convince myself I was happy, that I was building a future, but the truth was, I'd been blind. The trust I once had in her was shattered beyond repair. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew I couldn't stay trapped in that lie. I had to start figuring out how to rebuild my life, how to move past this, even if it meant going through some hell first. After she left, the silence in the house was deafening. It was like I'd lost a part of myself. I kept walking around, trying to find some meaning in what had just happened, but all I could see were the lies and the betrayal. I felt like a fool. For months, I'd been giving her everything: money, attention, love, believing she was the woman I'd marry. And all along, she was screwing my best friend. That thought kept gnawing at me, fueling a kind of burning rage I'd never felt before. I spent the next few days just trying to get my head straight. I stopped talking to everyone, mostly because I didn't want to hear their sympathy or their judgments. Deep down, I knew I'd trusted the wrong people. I'd been blind to her bitchy side, to the way she'd manipulate everyone around her. Now I was just angry. Angry at her, at Mark, at myself for not seeing it sooner. I kept thinking about how much I'd lost, my future, my trust, my sense of who I was. Honestly, I felt broken, like I'd been punched so hard I wouldn't recover. But then something changed. I realized I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to do something. I started to plan. Not revenge exactly, but a way to make her regret what she'd done, to take back some control. First, I decided to cut ties with everyone involved, including Mark. I knew I couldn't trust either of them anymore. I also changed my passwords, blocked her on social media, and deleted her number. I needed to take away her power over me. I also made a few calls, some to a lawyer, to see what my options were. I wasn't ready to get into anything legal yet, but I wanted to be prepared. Meanwhile, I started focusing on myself. Hit the gym, started eating better. I realized I'd been neglecting my health while trying to keep her happy. Being alone hurt, but it also gave me space to breathe and think clearly. I didn't want to let her win by breaking me down completely. I was angry, sure, but I was also determined to come out of this stronger. I told myself that maybe this was the universe's way of showing me I deserved better. Someone who wouldn't lie, cheat, and screw over the people they're supposed to love. One night, I went out with some friends, people who knew what I was going through. They listened, gave me advice, and reminded me I wasn't crazy for feeling this way, that I shouldn't let her get away with it. They said I'd find someone who truly valued me, someone who wouldn't betray me like she did. I clung to that hope, even if it was faint. Because right now, I just needed to breathe, to heal, and to figure out what my next move was. The pain was real, but so was my resolve. I knew I'd be okay eventually. I had to be. As the weeks passed, I kept reflecting on everything that happened. Honestly, it was a roller coaster of emotions: anger, heartbreak, betrayal, but also a strange sense of clarity. I started to see how much I had let her control my life, how I had ignored the signs because I wanted everything to work out so badly. But now I knew better. I couldn't let her lie and cheat her way back into my life, not after what she did. The trust was shattered beyond repair, and I had to accept that. One day, I finally decided I needed closure, not for her but for myself. I couldn't keep living in the past, obsessing over what went wrong. I had to face what was real and move forward, so I reached out to Mark. Yeah, I know, I wanted some answers, and I wasn't going to let him off the hook easily. I texted him, asking to meet up. When we finally sat down, the truth spilled out faster than I expected. Mark admitted that he and Emily had been sleeping together. For months, long before the engagement party, even before we started planning everything. He was arrogant, tried to justify it, said she was the one who made the first move, that he couldn't resist. Hearing that made my stomach turn. I felt a mix of rage and disgust, but more than that, I felt relief. I finally had the truth, and it was worse than I thought. She'd been lying to me for so long, hiding her real self behind a facade of sweetness. I told Mark I never wanted to see him again, that I was done with both of them. I felt like my world was falling apart again, but at the same time, I realized I was finally freeing myself from their lies. I closed that chapter of my life, knowing I'd have to rebuild everything from scratch. I started focusing even more on myself, therapy, new hobbies, reconnecting with friends I'd pushed away. It was hard, but each day got a little easier. I learned that trusting someone blindly is a mistake. Trust has to be earned, and only by protecting myself will I avoid getting burned again. I also learned that pain doesn't last forever. It just needs some time and patience. Most importantly, I understood I wasn't weak for feeling hurt. That's part of being human. But I also realized I was strong enough to walk away from the lies, even if it hurt like hell. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew I'd come out of this better. I'd find happiness again, even if it meant starting over. And honestly, that thought gives me a tiny bit of hope. It's not easy, but I'm determined to rebuild my life on my own terms now, even if I have to do it without her. Looking back now, I realize that what I went through was one of the toughest experiences of my life. Losing trust, feeling humiliated, and sitting with the heartbreak of betrayal. It's something I wouldn't wish on anyone. But in a strange way, it also taught me a lot about myself. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can survive even the deepest betrayals, and that sometimes you have to break completely before you can start rebuilding. I've come to accept that some people aren't who you think they are. Emily was a lie I wanted to believe in, but the truth was much darker than I ever imagined. Now I'm focusing on myself. I've started dating again, cautiously. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to listen when my gut screams at me. I never want to feel that kind of pain again, and I know I need to be careful who I let into my life. But I also know I deserve someone who's honest, loyal, and treats me with respect, not just with words but with actions. Maybe someday I'll find that person. Until then, I'll keep working on healing, learning, and growing. One thing I want to say to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar: don't let the betrayal define you. It hurts, it's unfair, and it's confusing as hell. But you have the power to choose how to move forward. You can let it break you, or you can use it as a wake-up call. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's hard to repair. So protect yourself, be cautious, and never ignore the red flags. Love isn't supposed to hurt this much. In the end, I've learned that the best revenge is living well. I refuse to be a victim forever. I'll rebuild my life brick by brick, stronger and wiser. And I'll cherish the genuine, honest relationships I find along the way. Because, honestly, I still believe in love, just not the kind that's built on lies. That's the biggest lesson I take from all this. Don't settle for anything less than real honesty. If someone's not willing to give that to you, then they don't deserve your time or your trust. And maybe someday, I'll look back at this chapter and smile, not because of the pain, but because I survived it. Because I came out on the other side more aware, more resilient, and more ready for whatever life throws at me next.